بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Dear students in Human Resource Management class, welcome everybody to Al-Isra University e-learning. In this presentation, I will proceed in chapter 7 entitled Training and Developing Employees. In last meeting, we explained about the several methods and techniques of a training process. In this presentation, I will proceed in the implementing the development process and management development programs. Not training programs, the management development programs. Management development means any attempt to improve the current managerial performance or future performance by imparting knowledge, changing attitudes, or increasing skills. This is the meaning of management development. It's a process or attempt to improve managerial current or future performance by imparting knowledge, changing attitudes, or increasing skills. The strategies role in management development. Management development programs should not exist in a vacuum, but should instead reflect the firm's strategic plans. So the management development programs should be related to the firm's strategic plan. Management development programs then impart knowledge, attitude, and skills the managers need to excel at their jobs. So managers can gain new skills, new attitudes, and new knowledge they need to excel their jobs. Some of management development programs are company-wide and involve all or most new potential managers. Some programs are company-wide. It involves all or most managers. And other programs aim to fill specific top positions such as CEOs. So some managers involve all managers. Some development programs involve all managers in the company, and some aim to fill specific top positions such as CEOs. Okay. The most popular management development techniques include classrooms, based learning, executive coaching, action learning, 360-degree feedback, and other techniques. These are the techniques of management development, the techniques that we use in management development process. Classroom, based learning, executive coaching, action learning, and other. Here we will look at some of these techniques. So the first technique is managerial on-the-job training. And let me first explain that there are on-the-job training techniques and off-the-job training techniques. On-the-job training and off-the-job training. On-the-job training include three types or three methods, three techniques you can call them: job rotation, coaching or understudy approach, and action learning. On-the-job training include job rotation approach, understudy or coaching approach, and action learning approach. And here I will explain about each approach of the on-the-job training. And off-the-job training I will explain also. Managerial on-the-job training methods include job rotation, the coaching approach, and action learning. In the context of management development, job rotation means moving managers from department to department to broaden their understanding of the business and to test their abilities. And I think we explained more about job rotation in previous sections in chapter 2 and 4, I think. So job rotation means moving managers from department to department to broaden their understanding of the business and to test their abilities. The trainee may be a recent graduate and spend several months in each department learning by doing, or he or she may be a senior manager being groomed for a promotion by exposure to new domestic and foreign challenges. Okay, this is the first method of on-the-job training or on-the-job managerial training. Another technique is coaching or understudy approach. Here, the trainee works directly with a senior manager or with the person he or she is to replace. The trainee works directly with the person he or she is to replace or with a senior manager. The latter is responsible for the trainee's coaching. So this person is responsible for the trainee's coaching. The third technique is action learning, and action learning means training technique by which management trainees are allowed to work full-time analyzing and solving problems in other departments. These action learning programs give managers and other released time to work at analyzing and solving problems in departments other than their own. Its basics include carefully selecting teams of 5 to 25 members, assigning the team real-world business problems that extend beyond their usual areas of expertise, and providing structured learning through coaching and feedback. This is the action learning. These are the three methods or three techniques of on-the-job training. Now let's move on to off-the-job management training and development techniques. And here are many techniques of off-the-job or management training and development techniques. There are also many of the job techniques for training and developing managers. The first technique is the case study method. Case study method presents a trainee with a written description of an organizational problem. Written description of a problem. The person then analyzes the case, diagnoses the problem, and presents his or her findings and solutions in discussion with other trainees. Case study development method, in which the manager is presented with a written description of an organizational problem to diagnose and solve it. This is case study method. And here an example. You can read this example to understand more. Another technique of the job training and development and developing its management games. Computerized management games enable trainees to learn by making realistic decisions in simulated situation. So here in management games, we use computers and simulation programs or softwares to learn employees or educate the employees how to make a realistic decision in this simulated situation. So in management games, we use simulation and software, some software programs. With some games, trainee divide into teams competing in a simulated marketplace. Or yes, another method is to divide the trainees into teams in a competing situation in the marketplace. Okay, let's move to another technique of the job training and developing, which outside seminars. Numerous companies and universities offer web-based and traditional classroom management development seminars and conferences. The selection of 1 to 3 day training programs offered by the American Management Association illustrates what's available. Recently, for instance, their offering ranged from developing your emotional intelligence to assertiveness training for managers, assertiveness training for women in business, dynamic listing skills for successful communication, and fundamentals of cost accounting. These specialized associations, such as Society of Human Resource Management, provide specialized seminars for their professions members. So, in seminar or outside seminar, some specialized institutions provide a specialized seminar to some employees. Okay. Another technique is university-related programs. Many universities provide executive education and continuing education programs in leadership, supervision, and the like. These can range from 1 to 4 day programs to executive development programs lasting 1 to 4 months. Okay, these programs offered by universities and continuing education programs. Students are experienced managers from around the world. It uses cases and lectures to provide them with the latest management skills. These are some examples for the Advanced Management Program of Harvard Graduate School of Business Administration as example. In this business school and this program, students are experienced managers from around the world. It uses cases and lectures to provide them with the latest management skills. Okay. Role playing. Role playing is a training technique in which trainees act out parts in a realistic management situation. Role playing. With role playing, the trainee assume the parts or roles of specific persons in realistic situation. Each trainee gets a role such as here some an example of the role playing. So let's read it. You are the head of a crew telephone maintenance workers. Each of women drives a small service truck to and from the various jobs. Every so often you get a new truck to exchange for an old one, and you have the problem of deciding which of your crew members you should give the new truck. Often there are hard feelings since each seems to feel entitled to a new truck. Here a situation as an example, and how would you deal with this situation? So when combined with the general instructions and other rules, role playing can trigger a spirited discussion among the role player trainees. The aim is to develop trainees' skills in areas like leadership and delegating. Okay, this is the role playing. Put the trainee in a realistic situation and to see how he will make a certain and a accurate decision in this situation. And the aim here is to develop trainees' skills in areas like leadership and delegating. Another technique is behavior modeling. Please be informed that we are talking about the techniques or the of the job training and developing techniques. Behavior model is one of these techniques. Behavior modeling involves showing a trainees the right or model. We show the employees a model of in our organization, a model way of doing something, the ideal way to doing something. Secondly, let the trainee practice that way and let the employee practice that way, then give the feedback on the trainee performance. Behavior modeling training is one of the most widely used, well-researched and highly regarded psychologically based training interventions. A training technique, the behavior modeling is a training technique in which a trainee are first shown a good management technique in a film, are asked to play roles in a simulated situation and are then given feedback and praise by their supervisor. So the basic procedures is as follows: modeling, role-playing, social reinforcement, and transfer training. In the modeling, firstly, trainee watch a live or video examples showing a model behaving effectively in a problem or situation. Role-playing, next, the trainees receive order to play in a simulated situation so they can practice the effective behaviors demonstrated by the models. In the social reinforcement, the trainer provides reinforcement in the form of praise and constructive feedback. And finally, transfer training. Trainees are encouraged to apply their new skills when they are back on their jobs. This is the technique of behavior modeling. Another technique is corporate universities. Corporate universities, also known or called in-house development centers. In-house development centers, often called corporate universities, same meaning, a company-based method for exposing prospective managers to realistic exercise to develop improved management skills. Many firms establish in-house development centers, or called corporate universities. Such centers offer a catalog of courses and programs aimed at supporting the employer's management development needs. Employers often collaborate with academic institutions and with training development programs providers, such as web-based educational portals, to create a package of programs and materials. The characteristics of effective corporate universities include alignment with corporate strategic goals. Second is a focus on development of skills and support business needs. Thirdly, evaluation of learning and performance. Fourth, using technology to support the learning. And finally, partnering with academia. Partnering with academia. Okay, this is the corporate universities or in-house development centers. Another technique is executive coaches. Many firms retain executive coaches to develop their top managers' effectiveness. An executive coach is an outside consultant who questions the executive bosses, peers, subordinates, and sometimes family in order to identify the executive's strengths and weaknesses and to counsel the executive so he or she can capitalize on these strengths and overcome of weaknesses. So the consultant questions the executive boss, peers, subordinates, and sometimes family. So the executive coach need to appraise and evaluate and to clearly understand the strength and weaknesses of some manager This information he can gain from the executive boss, the peers, subordinates, and sometimes from the family, in order to identify the strengths and weaknesses. Then he can capitalize these strengths and overcome these weaknesses. So executive coaches is an outside consultant. Outside consultant. Another technique is the Society of Human Resource Management, or the HRM learning system. The Society of Human Resource Management learning system encourages human resource professionals to qualify for certification by taking examinations. So this is a Society Human Resource Management. It gives a certification by taking an examinations. The society offers several preparatory training programs. The self-study option includes test and DVD. The college university option provides classroom interaction with instructors and other students. So the society offers several programs: the self-study option and the college and university option. These are two options that the Society for Human Resource Management deliver their programs. Okay, here as a case study of leadership of General Electric, you can read this one alone. It's an example or a case study, and here also the talent management as a case study. Also you can read these two parts. Yes, these two parts, please, you can read them for more understanding. Managing organizational change programs. Now let's go to new section, managing organizational change programs. Not too long ago, Nokia led the world in smartphones. Then Apple introduced its first iPhone. Within a year, Nokia's smartphone market share plummeted, dropped down. So this is as a case of Nokia's phone and Nokia's smartphone and iPhone. Now, Nokia need to deal effectively with this organizational changes. So it appointed a new CEO. Now here we will talk about managing organizational change programs, and we are talking about Nokia's case as an example. How Nokia's company need to or deal with these changes. It appointed a new CEO. He knew Nokia's faced pressing problems. Its smartphone share was down, and it was losing low-cost handset business to Asian competitors. Nokia's research and development was behind the times. Okay, so major organizational changes like these are never easy. In this case, or Nokia's case, the major organizational changes like these are never easy. But perhaps the hardest part is overcoming the resistance to it. The resistance to change. People resist change because they are accustomed to the usual way of doing things, or because they perceive threats to their influence. What to change? In the organizational change programs, what to change? Faced with situation like this, managers change one or more of 5 aspects of their companies. So managers need to change one or more of 5 aspects of their companies: their strategy, culture, structure, technology, and attitudes and skills of the employees. What to change? We need to change strategy and or culture, structure, technology, attitudes, and skills of the employees. Strategic change. Organizational turnarounds often start with a change of the firm's strategy, mission, and vision. With strategic change, for example, in the Nokia case, a strategic partnership with Microsoft with the aim of introducing a new Windows-based smartphone within a year. So in Nokia's case, the new manager entered into a strategic partnership with Microsoft with the aim to introduce a new Windows Windows-based smartphone within a year. This is a strategic change in the case of Nokia's and iPhone. Other changes in terms of structure: Nokia split responsibility for its smartphones and handsets into 2 new units. He replaced managers in Nokia's mobile phone unit and markets unit. So here the other changes is in terms of structure. Split the responsibility of its smartphone and handsets into 2 new units: mobile phone unit and market unit. In terms of technology, the company reduced the Symbian Operation System's central rule in its smartphones, replacing it with Microsoft Mobile Operating System. This is in technology, in terms of technology. So here the change on strategy, on structure, on technology. And in terms of culture, the management has new team change the firm culture, for instance, by impressing on Nokia's employees the need to eradicate bureaucratic decision making. This is another culture. Bureaucratic decision making is more demonstrate in the culture of the company. However, strategic, cultural, structural, and technological changes will fail without employees' action support. So, leading organizational change, therefore, invariably requires changing the employees themselves, particularly their attitude, skills, and behavior. So, what to change we need? Maybe we need to change strategy. We need to change structure, culture, technologies, and most importantly, we need to change attitudes, skills, and behaviors of our employees. Unfortunately, getting employees support is not easy. The change may require the cooperation of dozens or even hundreds of managers and supervisors, many of whom may view the change as detrimental. Resistance may therefore be formidable. Knowing how to deal with that resistance is the heart of implementing organizational change. And we need to know how to deal with the resistance of change. Here I will explain about, or we'll talk about two methods or two processes how to deal with organizational or how to implement organizational change. The first one is Lowen's change process. Lowen's change process. Psychologist Kurt Lowen formulated a model to summarize what he believed was the basic process for implementing a change with minimal resistance. To Lowen, all behavior in organizations was a product of two kinds of forces. Those striving to maintain the status quo and those pushing for change. So, two forces. One force is striving to maintain the status quo, and the other is pushing for change. Implementing change thus means reducing the forces for the status quo or building up the forces for change. Lowen's process consists of three steps. Three steps of Lowen's process. First step is unfreezing, mean reducing the forces that are striving to maintain the status quo. The unfreezing means reducing the forces that are striving to maintain the status quo. According to Lowen's model, he supposed that there are two kinds of forces. One force is striving to maintain the same situation or the same status quo. The other is pushing for change. So according to this model, there are three steps. The first step is unfreezing. Unfreezing means reducing the forces that are striving to maintain the status. The other step or the next step is moving, means developing new behaviors, values, and attitudes. Developing new behaviors, values, and attitudes. The manager may accomplish this through organizational structure change, through conventional training and development activities, and sometimes through the other organizational development techniques. So unfreezing, moving, And refreezing, the third step of the Lowen's process or Lowen's model is refreezing, means building in the reinforcement to make sure the organization doesn't slide back into its former way of doing things. So this is the 3 steps of Lowen's process of change. This is the first method to deal with or implement organizational change, is Lowen's change process. The other, here some example, there is some example of how Nokia implement Lowen's process in its case, and you can read this alone for more understanding. Okay. Another method how to deal with or how to implement organizational change is using organizational development. Using organizational development. Organizational development taps into the latter. Organizational development is a change process through which employees formulate the change that's required and implement it, often with the assistance of trained consultants. Organizational development has several distinguishing characteristics. Here, I need to explain that we can use Lowen's model for implementing the organizational change, or we can use organizational development. In the organizational development, a change process through which employees formulate the change that's required and implement it, often with the assistance of trained consultants. What are the characteristics of using organizational development? Firstly, it usually involves action research, which means collecting data about a group, department, or organization and feeding the information back to the employee so they can analyze it and develop hypotheses about the problem. So the first characteristic is using or involved action research, which means collecting data about the group, department, and organization, and so on. It applies behavioral science knowledge, so it depends on behavioral science knowledge to improve organizational effectiveness. It changes the organization in a particular direction toward empowerment, improved problem solving, responsiveness, quality of work, and effectiveness. There are 4 basic categories of organizational development applications. There are 4 basic categories of organizational development applications: a human process application, techno-structural human resource management, techno-structural application, human resource management application, and strategic applications. The first category is a human resource or human process applications. Human process application. The goal of a human process organizational development techniques is to give the employees the insights and skills required to analyze their own and other behavior more effectively, so they can then solve interpersonal and intergroup problems. So in this human process application, the employees can solve interpersonal and intergroup problems. Techno-structural interventions, organizational development practitioners also get involved in changing firm structures, methods, and job designs using an assortment of techno-structural interventions. For example, in a formal structural change program, the employees collect data on the company's existing organizational structure, then they jointly redesign and implement a new one. So, according techno-structural interventions, employees collect data of the existing organizational structure and then they jointly to redesign and implement the new structure. Okay, another category of organizational development, human resource management applications. Organizational development practitioners use action research to enable employees to analyze and change their firm's human resource practices. So targets of change here might include the performance appraisal and reward systems, as well as installing diversity programs. So a practitioner can use human resource management application. Lastly, strategic organizational development applications. Strategic interventions aim to use action research to improve companies' strategic management. Integrated strategic management is one example. Integrated strategic management, it consists of 4 steps. 4 steps. Managers and employees analyze the current strategy of organizational structure and organizational structure. Then they choose a desired strategy and organizational structure and design the strategic change plan, an action plan for moving the organization from its current strategy and organizational design to the desired future strategy and design. Finally, the team oversees implementing the strategic change and reviewing the results. So there are 4 steps of strategic interventions, and it is an integrated strategic management. It consists of 4 steps, managers and employees. It's integrated by managers and employees. This is for the organizational development section. The last section in this chapter, I will explain about evaluating the training effort, and with today emphasis on measuring results. It is crucial that the manager evaluate the training program. It's crucial, it's very important to evaluate the training program. There are several things you can measure. Participants' reactions to the program, what if anything the trainee learned, the reactions, the learning, and the behavior and the results. So several things you can measure: the reactions, the learning, behavior, and the results. Designing the study. These 4 things I will explain more about them in the last of this section, or in the end of this section. In evaluating the training programs, the first question should be how to design the evaluation study. Your basic concern here is how can we be sure that the training caused the result? This is the major question. How can we be sure that the training caused the results? The time series design is one option. Time series design is one option. You take a series of performance measures before and after training program. In this design, we take a series of performance before and after the training program. This can provide a preliminary reading on the program's effectiveness. However, you can't be sure from this that training rather than, say, a new pay plan caused the change. There is something called controlled experimentation. Controlled experimentation is therefore the evaluation process of choice. A controlled experiment uses both training group and control group. Training group and a control group that receives no training. Data, for instance, on quantity of sales or quality service are obtained both before and after the group is exposed to training, and before and after a corresponding work period in the control group. In this method, we take two groups, training group and control group, and we collect data on both groups before and after the training. This makes it possible to determine the extent to which any change in the training group's performance resulted from the training rather than from the organization-wide change like a rise in pay. This controlled approach is feasible, but most firms simply measure trainees' reactions to the program. Some also measure the trainees' job performance before and after the training. Okay, here, time series design. We measure the performance before and after the training. The controlled experimentation, we take two groups, training group and control group, and then we measure the performance before and after to determine the extent to which any change in the training group performance is resulted from the training. Okay. The training effects to measure. Here we can measure some training effects to make sure the effectiveness of training program. The manager can measure 4 basic categories of training outcomes. 4 basic categories: reaction, learning, behavior, and results. Reaction: evaluate trainees' reaction to the program. Did they like the program? Did they think it worthwhile? This is the reaction regarding the program itself. Learning: test the trainees to determine whether they learned the principles, skills, and facts they were supposed to learn or not. So, learning: test the learned principles and skills. Behavior: ask whether trainees on the job behavior changed because of the training program. is the behavior change because of this program or not? Results, probably most important, ask what results did we achieve in terms of the training objective previously set. For example, did the number of customers complaints diminish? Reactions, learning, and behavior are important, but if the training program doesn't produce measurable results, then it probably hasn't achieved the goal. So this is a very important note. Reaction, learning, and behavior are important, but if the training program doesn't produce measurable results, then it probably hasn't achieved its goals. So this is the end of this chapter, and thank you so much for hearing or for listening, and any questions and discussion we will discuss in the open session soonly. Thank you so much.